Hi, my name's Craig, and today I thought I would talk to you about why I became a Christian. I touched on it a little bit in the last video, but today I thought I'd go into a little bit more detail. So, I've always described myself from a religious aspect or as an atheist who wanted to believe, but I could never quite take that leap of faith and start believing in God. For most of my adult life, I've suffered with low self-esteem and low self-worth, and it's quite a lot of time it's made me question who I am and also question what other people think about me. And unfortunately, most of the time, my sort of overthinking, paranoid brain would convince myself that people don't like me, or that the only way people will like me is if I do things for other people, people pleasing essentially. So when people would say things to me, I would probably, more often than not, overanalyze the things that they said and somehow turn it into a negative about myself. And I'd probably do the same as well, overthinking things I said to other people and worrying had I offended somebody or upset them, when the chances are that person didn't think anything of what I might have said. So earlier this year, in April, I had a pretty difficult weekend sort of mentally, and spent most of the weekend out and about walking, which essentially I was trying to clear my head. Unfortunately, the overthinking part of my brain wasn't allowing my head to be cleared, and I just, mithered over some of the situations that had happened. On the 15th of April, I travelled up to Birmingham. I go up to Birmingham once a month for a week for work. On this particular day, I was travelling up to Birmingham, and normally I would be overthinking the events that had happened over the weekend. But I decided to take a slightly different train of thought onto that journey. And instead of overthinking what had happened, I decided to think of the reasons why I am the way I am and the reasons why I overthink. And it was in that moment that what I now believe was God spoke to me for the first time. And what he said to me was, the key to me obtaining peace, mentally obtaining peace, would be to forgive people who have said or done things to me that have affected who I am, and also to forgive myself for the things I may have done or may have said that are affecting other people. And in that moment, I felt like a huge weight had lifted off my shoulders. And for the rest of the journey to Birmingham, because it's a 3 to 4 hour journey from Plymouth where I live, the rest of that journey, I cannot think of another time that I've been as happy, especially after a difficult weekend. I was laughing, singing, crying, but tears of joy. And when I got to Birmingham, I just couldn't wait to speak to Pastor Paul, who I'd spoken to before, and tell him what had happened. And it was during a conversation with Pastor Paul that he advised me to go on the Alpha course, which, again, I spoke a little bit about in the last video. So the Alpha course is an 8-week course run by the elders or the staff at the church. And each week features a 20-minute video and a discussion in your group after the video to discuss what the video is about and what people think about it. There's no pressure to become a Christian. It simply is a good way to find out a little bit more about God and also get your questions answered. And the people who run the course are very, very helpful, and they say, no question is too silly. We've all got questions about God and about Jesus, and it's an amazing environment to quite safely ask those questions. So I was doing the Alpha course, and despite what happened to me in April, so the Alpha course started in May. Despite what happened to me on that journey to Birmingham in April, I was still struggling a little bit to, fully commit to believing in God and Jesus. And it was then that a chap on the course, he spoke to me and said that Jesus is, waiting at the door to your heart, but you have to let him in. You have to invite Jesus into your life. He doesn't just come into your life, you have to invite him in. And that's the way, that you'll start to learn more about God and how he loves you. So, of course, being a worrier and an overthinker, I was still worrying, well, what if it doesn't happen for me? What if, I carry on doing this course and get to the end of it and still don't believe? So a couple of weeks went by, and we were at the church having on the Sunday sermon, and there was a lady speaker, and she was asking, at the end of the sermon, she asked anybody within the congregation, if they want somebody to pray for them, no matter what it's about, come to the front and you can be prayed for, which I did. And she then happened to mention that somebody within the congregation, a couple, was struggling to conceive, and that we should pray for them. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it. I just, thought perhaps this couple had spoken to her before the sermon and asked her to ask the congregation to pray. So I didn't really think much of it. The following Wednesday, at the next Alpha course, the chap that explained to me that you just need to open the door to your heart and let Jesus in, he came up to me and he said that it was him and his wife who the lady was talking about with regards to the trouble of conceiving. So I asked him, did you inform her of this before the sermon? And he said, no, she's a prophet. So she just knew that there was a couple within the congregation who were struggling to conceive. And I thought at the time, I thought, well, that's amazing. The fact that, she knew that there was this couple there, and it just happened to be this friend of mine. Anyway, he asked me to pray for him. And that evening, when I went home, I spoke to my girlfriend, who's been a Christian for many more years than I have, and I said, "Well, can you include this couple in your prayers?" Which we did that night. We spoke. We prayed to God and asked for His assistance in giving them their what they want, which was a baby. And again, a few weeks go by, and I'm still struggling to sort of find my way within Christianity, and still struggling to believe 100% that God exists. And that's when God spoke to me for the second time. And this time it was during a sermon. He spoke to me and said to find, to look for this guy in the sermon. So I looked over and I found him. I didn't speak to him because the sermon was going on. We were sat listening, but I looked over and I saw him. And in that moment, a voice again, appeared and said to me that this person is going to have good news for me. And when this happened, I felt something enter me, and I had goosebumps and and chills. And people have said to me, well, that was the Holy Spirit entering you, and so on. And again, a couple of weeks go by, and the very final Alpha course, which was on June the 5th, I'm sat waiting for everybody to arrive and for the course to start. And this guy, he arrives and he comes straight over to me, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And I already knew what he was going to tell me. But he basically said to me that his wife, was pregnant. And that for me was the moment that I believed that God existed. I believed that God provided this miracle. I believed that He spoke to me and he told me that they were going to give good news, and that was his sort of way of telling me that he exists and that I need to start believing. And ever since June the 5th, so we're on to September 19th now, so 3 and a bit months, I've believed in God. I've read more of the Bible. I've bought a few more books to read. I attend church regularly. I've just started on the Alpha course again to do it as a bit of a refresher. And yeah, so since June the 5th, I would say that I've become a Christian. Now, my next steps are to get baptised, which I'm hopefully going to do in January, although the thought of standing on the stage and reading out a testimony, which will probably be very similar to this video, just a lot shorter, is a bit frightening, but it's just something that I'm going to have to do. And I think in the future videos, I'll probably explain a little bit more of the things that I have done and the things I am planning to do since the June the 5th and since I became a Christian. So that's it for now. God bless. If you are thinking about, becoming a Christian, or even if you've just got questions you want answered, or you've got curiosities, then please attend the Alpha course. I'm sure there's one in the city near you. The one that I go to at Plymouth Christian Centre has just started. We had the taster session last night, but the first video is next Wednesday. You don't have to have come to the taster session to come to the first course. So if anybody's watching this, lives in Plymouth, they'd like to come along, I'll put a link in the comment section. Otherwise, you can just go to your local church. Again, if you want to come to Plymouth Christian Centre, there's plenty of people there that you can talk to. You can ask questions at the end of the sermon, and it would be great to see you there. Anyway, that's it for now. Again, God bless, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Take care.